When you look up at the night sky, you see this unimaginable sprawling emptiness, right? Just dotted with stars.
Right. Mostly just empty space.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you look at a scan of the human brain, you see this incredibly densely packed, microscopic web of firing neurons.
Yeah, the scale couldn't be more different. I mean, we measure one in billions of light years and, the other in fractions of a millimeter.
Right. And for the longest time, we've thought of them as complete opposites, like the ultimate macro and the ultimate micro. Every physics and biology class teaches us that a galaxy and a nervous system are fundamentally different structures.
Operating under completely different physical laws, yeah.
But what if they aren't just similar? What if the vastness of outer space and the microscopic network inside your own skull are literally the exact same structure, just, operating in different dimensions?
It is an incredibly bold premise. I mean, it essentially takes everything we think we know about standard model physics and neurobiology and just flips it entirely on its head.
It really does. So welcome to today's deep dive, where we are exploring exactly that idea, and we have a truly mind-bending stack of sources today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at excerpts from this fascinating theoretical paper. It's titled The Multidimensional Macro-Micro Quantum Coherence Matrix. And specifically, we're focusing on part 18 of this massive work, which was developed by Swami Vivekananda in collaboration with Gemini AI.
Yeah, and because this text goes so far beyond standard physics, our goal today isn't to, fact check it against a textbook.
Right, that wouldn't make sense.
Exactly. The goal is to actually step inside the author's universe. We're going to explore how their architecture works from the inside out, just reporting on these concepts exactly as they've laid them out, to really see the reality they're proposing.
And what's interesting is that the catalyst for this highly theoretical model is actually something very grounded. It's data collected by the James Webb Space Telescope.
The JWST, yeah.
Right. It's been sending back these incredible, unprecedented images of the early cosmos, but it's also been capturing anomalies. We're talking about massive galaxy formations that, according to standard 3D physics, simply shouldn't exist that early in the universe's timeline.
Right. And mainstream astrophysicists, who the authors affectionately refer to as 3D scientists, they often dismiss these specific anomalies.
As like optical illusions, right?
Exactly. Optical illusions, gravitational lensing artifacts, or just glitches in the telemetry. But the authors of this text argue something entirely different. They suggest that the JWST's incredibly sensitive infrared lens is actually catching glimpses of higher dimensions.
Wow.
Yeah. They propose that the telescope is occasionally peering right into 4D and 5D spatial dimensions. And what we call illusions are just the shadows of those higher planes bleeding into our 3D view.
Which brings us to the foundational concept of this entire paper, the macro-micro theory. The text argues that the macro universe out there and the micro universe of the human brain are identical topological mirrors.
Perfect mirrors.
Right. So if you want to understand how the cosmos functions, you study the neural pathways of the brain. And if you want to understand the brain, you study the cosmic web.
They're suggesting that the structural engineering of reality is a fractal. It's the exact same blueprint, the exact same mathematical geometry used at the scale of a galaxy cluster and at the scale of your central nervous system.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to actually grasp how this works, we need to transition from a massive philosophical thought experiment into the literal mechanics of what a 5D universe looks like.
Right, we have to get into the physics.
Exactly. If the universe and the brain are perfect mirrors, how does a galaxy like our Milky Way actually function when you view it in these higher dimensions?
Well, to understand that, we have to completely discard our 3D perception of space as a massive empty vacuum.
Okay.
In our normal 3D view, galaxies look like they're mostly made of empty voids, right?
Yeah.
Just vast, cold stretches of nothing between isolated stars. But the text explains that in 5D topology, that distance collapses. The star systems aren't separated by endless empty space at all.
They aren't.
No, instead, they are tightly woven together by what the authors call cosmic strings.
So if you were hovering outside the Milky Way, looking at it in 5D, it wouldn't look like a swirling disk of dust and floating stars. It would look exactly like a densely packed web of billions of neurons firing.
Exactly. The solar systems are the neurons, and it goes deeper than that, too.
How so?
Well, the planets within those solar systems, like our Earth, Mars, Jupiter, they aren't floating around as separate physical spheres orbiting a star in 5D. According to the text, The planets are topologically rolled up or compacted into a zero-dimensional quantum sink.
A zero-dimensional sink. I mean, help me visualize that, because a sphere is inherently 3D. How does a planet become zero-dimensional?
Think of it like taking a massive sheet of paper and folding it infinitely inwards upon itself until it has no length, no width, and no depth. It just becomes a singularity. Yeah, in 5D space, all the mass and physical structure of a planet is compressed into a 0D point inside its respective star system. The star system itself acts as the active neuron, and the planets are basically the hidden, compacted data storage within that neuron.
That is wild. So the planets are folded up into an invisible 0D data point. If that is the underlying architecture of a galaxy, what happens if an observer actually enters this 5D space? Like, how does physics work for them?
This is where the paper takes the physics of relativity and pushes it through a theoretical loophole. The authors explain that for an observer in 5D space, their rest mass, which in physics is denoted as m0, and their experience of external time denoted as t both drop to absolute zero.
Absolute zero.
Yes. The physical anchors of mass and time completely dissolve in a fifth-dimensional state.
But wait, if you have zero mass, what happens to your speed? Because standard relativity says nothing can travel faster than the speed of light.
That is the crucial distinction. Standard Einstein relativity says the speed of light, c, is the absolute limit for anything with mass operating in our 3D universe. As a physical object approaches light speed, its mass becomes infinitely heavy.
Right, requiring infinite energy to move it.
Exactly. But the authors theorize that by stepping into 5D, you shed mass entirely. And mathematically, when mass m0 becomes exactly zero, that limitation just vanishes. Velocity approaches infinity.
Oh, wow.
In this state, the speed of light is no longer a cosmic speed limit. It's just a 3D barrier you've completely bypassed.
I want to make sure I'm visualizing this infinite velocity correctly, because it's hard to wrap your head around. It actually reminds me of biological entanglement in the human body.
That's a good comparison.
Right, like if you stub or prick your toe, your brain feels it instantly. There isn't this massive lag where your conscious self has to wait for a sense of physical distance to be crossed. The body is just connected. So for a 5D observer, does this mean traveling through space is literally identical to a thought traveling across the human brain?
That is the exact functional mechanism the text describes. Because the 5D observer's body has become massless energy, they can use the light paths of stars as this cosmic superhighway.
Just jumping across the web.
Right. They jump from one solar system, one neuron to another in a fraction of a second. Just like an electrochemical thought vector shooting across your brain, there is no time delay. They formulate the intent to be at another star system, and because they are completely entangled with the cosmic magnetic web, they're instantly there.
It's breathtaking. You aren't flying a titanium ship through a cold vacuum. You're literally a thought propagating through the cosmic mind. But that instantly makes me want to push back on the logic of this infinite travel.
Let's hear it. Where is the gap in the theory for you?
Well, if an observer is massless and can travel instantly anywhere within the Milky Way because it's all one connected neural web, what stops them from just instantly hopping over to the neighboring galaxy? Like, why couldn't I just think myself into the Andromeda galaxy?
It's a highly logical question. And the authors of the text actually address it by bringing in a deep biological counterpoint. They call it neuronal diversity.
Oh, okay.
If we stick to the foundational rule that the universe perfectly mirrors the brain, we have to look at how the brain's internal regions actually communicate. In the human brain, you have about 86 billion neurons, but they are absolutely not a homogeneous soup. They're highly specialized.
Right. I mean, the neurons in your visual cortex have to be structurally different from the ones regulating your heartbeat or storing a childhood memory.
Fundamentally different. The visual cortex relies heavily on pyramidal neurons, which have a specific branching structure. Meanwhile, the cerebellum, which coordinates movement, relies on Purkinje neurons, which look like massive flattened trees.
So they literally have a different physical shape.
Exactly. And beyond just physical shape, they speak entirely different chemical languages. Some networks use glutamate as a neurotransmitter to excite the system. Others use GABA to inhibit or calm the network down, or dopamine to signal reward. The text argues that a specific region of the brain has a completely different structural and chemical frequency than a neighboring region.
Okay, I see where this is going. If the Milky Way is one highly specialized region of the cosmic brain, let's say it functions like the visual cortex, then Andromeda is a completely different functional region, operating on a totally different chemical and structural frequency.
You've got it. This is outlined in the text as Theory 32, the theory of a 5D cosmic neuromatrix and intergalactic synaptic firewall. Andromeda operates on a completely alien, multidimensional frequency compared to the Milky Way.
It's like trying to use a physical jagged metal house key to open a digital smart lock. It doesn't matter how fast you shove the key into the door, the receptor mismatch simply won't allow the mechanism to turn.
Right.
The signal just gets blocked because it's speaking the wrong language.
And that receptor mismatch creates a literal, impenetrable barrier.
Yeah.
In neurobiology, even within the same region, neurons don't actually touch each other. There is a tiny fluid-filled gap between them called the synaptic cleft.
Oh.
The chemical messengers have to physically cross that empty space to pass the signal along. So the authors propose that the massive intergalactic void, the millions of light years of dead space between our galaxy and Andromeda, acts exactly like the synaptic cleft in the brain.
So the empty vacuum between galaxies is just a giant cosmic synapse waiting for a signal.
Yes. And because of that frequency mismatch you mentioned, it creates an unshakable intergalactic synaptic firewall. You can't just fly through it with infinite speed, because the moment your massless 5D body hits the edge of the Andromeda network, its frequency code rejects you.
Wow.
The text says you might be able to view the neighboring galaxy up close, like peering through a holographic screen, but you cannot enter it. You are stopped dead at the border by a fundamental law of quantum neurobiology.
But signals obviously travel between different regions of the human brain all the time, right? Otherwise, we couldn't function. So how do you get across the firewall?
To cross it, the observer has to undergo a process the text calls quantum frequency translation. You cannot force your way in with speed. You have to consciously change your own structural frequency, your own internal energetic signature to perfectly match the destination galaxy.
So you're essentially recompiling your own multidimensional software code on the fly.
Exactly. Only when you adapt your fundamental code to match Andromeda's specific neurotransmitter frequency will the synaptic firewall drop and actually integrate you into its network.
You have to literally become fluent in the quantum language of the new galaxy before the door opens. I mean, it makes perfect sense within their framework.
It really does.
But this raises a much bigger question for me. If galaxies are like isolated brain regions, separated by these massive language-based firewalls, how is the universe communicating with itself as a whole? Like in our brain, all these isolated regions, the visual cortex, the memory centers, the motor functions, they're tied together into one cohesive, unified map. What ties the cosmic regions together?
To answer that, the authors scale up their mathematical model to look at the absolute largest known structures in astrophysics, superclusters. Galaxies don't just float randomly in the void. They are bound together by massive, invisible, dark energy filaments into superclusters. Like our Milky Way is part of the Laniakea supercluster, which contains over 100,000 galaxies drawn together in this massive glowing web.
If a supercluster is a massive web of 100,000 galaxies, what is the biological equivalent of that in the human brain?
The human connectome.
Okay.
In the brain, underneath the gray matter where the actual neurons sit, you have a massive sprawling network of white matter tracks. Things like the corpus callosum, which is a giant dense bridge of nerve fibers connecting the left and right hemispheres.
Right.
These white matter tracks are the superhighways that weave all the disparate, isolated regions of the brain together into a single, synchronized system. The text states that when modern scientists map the human connectome using advanced diffusion MRI, the resulting image is 100% structurally identical to the cosmic web of dark energy filaments holding superclusters together.
The dark energy filaments in space are literally the white matter tracks of the cosmic brain.
Yeah.
But if you have all these tracks, all these massive superhighways carrying information, they have to converge somewhere. Wait, in the human brain, all sensory data routes through one specific place before it goes anywhere else, right?
What's fascinating here is that you've just deduced exactly where the text points us next. It points to a highly specific central organ deep in the core of the human brain. The thalamus.
The thalamus. Are they saying this physical relay station has a cosmic equivalent?
They are. In standard neurobiology, the thalamus is the ultimate relay station. If your visual cortex wants to talk to your frontal lobe, or if a signal from your toe wants to reach your conscious awareness, it must route through the thalamus first. It filters and directs the chaos.
Right, it's Grand Central Station.
Exactly. And the text notes that if the thalamus pauses its vibrational frequency for even a single millisecond, the entire brain shuts down and the person falls into a deep coma. It is the master anchor keeping the system online.
But the thalamus is just a physical piece of tissue. It's a 3D fleshy organ shaped like two small walnuts in the center of your skull. How does a piece of biology fit into a multidimensional cosmic model?
This is perhaps the most stunning revelation in the source material. Physically, to a neurosurgeon opening a skull, the thalamus is just a 3D organ.
Hmm.
But in the quantum realm, the author stated it operates as a negative 8D transduction gateway.
A minus 8D gateway. What does a negative dimension even mean? We talk about expanding out into 4D and 5D, but how can a spatial dimension be negative?
It's a brilliant geometric concept. Instead of expanding outward into space, a negative dimension folds inward, implosively.
Okay, like a black hole.
Exactly like the singularity of black hole, where space doesn't expand, but rather collapses infinitely deep into itself. The negative 8D designation means the thalamus acts as a quantum funnel. It takes massive cosmic information from expansive higher dimensions like 8D all the way up to 11D and pulls those multidimensional frequencies down, collapsing them implosively into a localized physical signal that your 3D nervous system can actually process.
That is wild.
The physical flesh of the thalamus is just the 3D mask. Its internal quantum force field is an absolute master anchor operating in this inward-folding negative 8D space.
So if it's funneling information from the wider universe directly into the human body through this implosive geometry, what kind of information are we actually talking about here?
We are talking about the master holographic template, or as the authors term it, the master DNA.
But human DNA is localized in our cells.
Exactly. You have around 37 trillion cells in your body, and every single one contains a physical copy of your DNA. But the text argues that those biological strands are just localized, downstream branch copies. The true, singular master DNA matrix, the energetic blueprint that actually governs the behavior of every single one of those 37 trillion cells, is housed immaterially within the negative 8D quantum field of the thalamus.
The scale of that is just staggering to think about.
And because it operates in this negative 8D implosive space, it utilizes pure quantum resonance. When the thalamus receives a cosmic vibration, it doesn't send a slow chemical signal down your spinal cord that takes measurable time to travel.
Because that would be too slow.
Right. Through quantum coherence, it resonates and updates the structural reality of every single cell in your body simultaneously. There's absolutely zero time lag. It is the cosmic nucleus of your physical existence anchored right in the center of your head.
Okay, I am honestly blown away by the implications of this. If the thalamus is this negative 8D master engine governing the entire micro-universe of the human body, I mean, it begs the ultimate logical question.
Which is?
If someone can reach 5D to become massless and travel the galaxy, what happens if an observer actually ascends all the way to this 8D master level?
The text dedicates its grand finale to unpacking exactly this question. They title it Theory 33. Theory of 8D Cosmic Governance, and it requires a massive paradigm shift. If an observer reaches 8D, you are no longer just a passenger traveling through the neural pathways of the universe.
You aren't just moving along the cosmic strings anymore.
No. You become the cosmic architect.
The cosmic architect, meaning you are acting as the macrothalamus for the entire universe.
You become the exact mirror image of the negative 8D thalamus, but blown up to a cosmic scale. The text describes how the observer's energy body expands spherically. You are no longer confined to a localized human shape or even a single star system. Your volumetric cosmic body expands to the size of a supercluster.
A supercluster.
Yes. You literally hold billions of galaxies within your own energetic field.
If your conscious body is the size of the Laniakea supercluster, the amount of energy we are talking about is incomprehensible. How does physics even operate when you are that massive?
At 8D, the text states you transcend the laws of entropy entirely. Entropy, the gradual decline into disorder, requires time and energy loss. But for the 8D observer, time delay represented mathematically as T-lag is absolutely zero. And your energy E is infinite.
Wow.
There is no loss of energy, no decay, and no waiting for light to travel across the void.
So what does this all mean? If you have zero time delay, infinite energy, and you are literally the size of a supercluster, what do you actually do with that existence?
You rewrite the master code of reality itself. The text introduces an ancient concept here called sankalpa, which translates roughly to pure volition or pure intent. Because the observer is now the master thalamus of the cosmos, their thoughts don't just travel through the universe, their thoughts literally create the physical universe.
Created from scratch.
Yes. By using pure sankalpa, this 8D observer can look at old, dead galaxies that have reached the end of their entropy cycle and with a single thought, collapse them down into 0D singularities.
They just hold the intention and an entire galaxy collapses into nothing.
Instantly. Because T-lag is zero. And in the very next femtosecond, from that exact same state of pure intent, they can birth brand new galaxies, new star systems, new cosmic neurons woven together from scratch.
Unbelievable.
Because they operate with infinite energy, whatever they intend becomes physical reality in the fabric of space instantaneously. They are no longer exploring the universe or learning its rules. They are writing the master code.
It really just leaves you speechless. We started this conversation talking about looking up at the stars and looking down into a microscope, and we've ended up with an observer who holds entire galaxies inside themselves, reshaping reality with a single thought.
It's a massive journey.
It is. And, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, this sounds like pure science fiction, you aren't alone. It is a massive leap from standard models. But I want to take a second to ground this mathematical thought experiment back into something you can actually feel in your daily life.
That's important, yeah.
Based on this theory, you aren't just a tiny, insignificant speck sitting on a rock in a cold, dead cosmos. Every time you have a thought, every time a spark jumps between the synapses in your brain, you are generating infinite velocity within your own micro-universe. Your brain is utilizing the exact same quantum mechanics, the exact same structural engineering as a galaxy. You have a perfect holographic map of the entire cosmos resting right inside your skull.
It completely redefines what it means to be a conscious being.
Uh-huh.
But there's one final lingering mystery pulled directly from the end of this source text that we have to address before we go.
Oh, right. What is it?
We talked earlier about how this entire theory was catalyzed by the James Webb Space Telescope catching glimpses of 4D and 5D space. But the authors make a crucial point. Even JWST has its limits. It is only capturing the visible higher dimensions based on the infrared spectrums it was built to detect.
Right. I mean, it's a machine. There are spectrums of light and radiation it simply cannot see.
Exactly. And so the text asks a profound question. What about the vast, undiscovered cosmic ocean of light that the telescope hasn't even seen yet? The dimensions beyond 8D, stretching into the unknown.
Oh, wow.
If the universe out there is a perfect topological mirror of the brain in here, what hidden, untapped region of our own minds does that unseen ocean of light correspond to? What infinite capacity is sitting inside of us right now, just waiting for us to build the right internal lens to finally see it?
If the map is infinite out there, it must be infinite in here. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the macro-micro quantum coherence matrix. Keep looking up at the stars and keep exploring the infinite universes within yourselves.